Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Poe, and today I'm doing a series review of the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. I absolutely love this mystery series. It has just so much to offer. It's somewhere in between a cozy mystery series and a thriller series. It's got both elements of, fun and humor as well as really great plotting and intrigue. It is just fantastic. So let me tell you about why I love this series so much and why you should pick it up. So first, let's talk about the premise of this series, which is that we have four senior citizens, so people in their 70s, who live at a small British retirement village, and they meet on Thursdays for the Thursday Murder Club, where they try to investigate unsolved murder mysteries. Of course, sometimes they get in the way of the police, but actually they're quite competent at what they do. And in each of the books in this series, we have more and more things that happen, more murders and more intrigue. And so each book has a lot of interesting things going on in it. I don't want to talk about what happens in each book because I think the fun of a mystery is just seeing what happens and what unfolds. But each of the books in this series, The Thursday Murder Club, The Man Who Died Twice, The Bullet That Missed, and Last Devil to Die, focuses on a different mystery, but there is such a great thread and arc throughout all four books that really develops the characters and develops sort of some broader ideas and story arcs. And I think that that is just so fantastic. So now let me talk about what specifically makes me love this series so much. First, just starting with the characters. This series is a series that the characters are the stars of the show. Richard Osman has this way of writing characters that is so distinct for each character. Every person has their own personality, their own quirks, and you get to know them so quickly. There are the four main characters, but there are also so many other side characters, and as the series goes on, you get more side characters that are sort of mixed into the fold, and you get them recurring, as well as people that you only meet briefly, but you still learn so deeply who they are. And these characters are very much on the range of morality. So you have a ton of characters who are maybe on the better side and tons of characters that are on the more criminal side. And you get these morally great characters. Some of the main characters, the four friends in the Thursday Murder Club, are also a little bit morally gray. And you love all of them. Even the people who are clearly bad people, you love being in their heads. You love the way that you get to know them and you understand their motivations. And there's so much empathy that Osman has in the way that he writes the characters that it is just really immersive in those characters' experiences. And I think that is one of the absolute strongest points in this series is how great the characters are and how distinct they are and how much you care about each and every one of them. Another thing that I love about this series is the humor. Richard Osman has such a great humor style that really balances a lot of the, darker or more serious things that are happening in the series, because there really are thriller aspects and sometimes quite some serious topics or issues, but there is humor that really lightens all of it. And this humor isn't over the top. It's actually very subtle in a lot of ways, but sometimes a little bit biting. I think that he has social commentary that is very similar to something like Jane Austen, but he also has some surreal humor that reminds me of things like Douglas Adams. When you read this, you find yourself just so, I don't know, happy, because he finds the humor in these situations, and a lot of the more serious things that are going on sometimes are very everyday to the characters. And so maybe you'll be in the head of a drug dealer, and for them, dealing with all these kilos of cocaine, that's just every day, not a big deal. They really need to figure out what time they need to leave to get their daughter to ballet on time, like that kind of thing, where there's a sense of humor and a sense of lightness that helps balance out the heavier aspects of the series and makes it just so fun and so funny. And there's so many conversations that make you laugh out loud, and characters who just have their quirks that make you very amused, and that humor just makes this series something that you want to go back to again and again. And really, when we're talking about, how great the characters are and how great the humor is, what I'm really trying to say is the writing in this is just fantastic. I think that the writing style has this sort of immersive, effortless flow that is really hard to do, but also something that I think is fantastic is that it is really well done in terms of the formatting and in terms of the voice. So one of the things that makes this series very fun is that one of the four friends at the retirement community, Joyce, is in a sense a main character because we get her journal entries every once in a while. So many of these chapters are told from different perspectives, but we get some journal entries from Joyce that go through the series, and it's just like really fun in a very different voice than many of the other chapters. But each of those chapters that we get from different characters' voices feel very distinct. The whole writing style changes. You feel like you're in their heads. And I think that the way that the story is crafted as well just really shows a lot of skill in writing. And you see that especially over the course of the four books, where in each book, I think that Richard Osman levels up his writing ability and his ability to tackle different issues too. The fourth book tackles some very serious topics and some very tough things that the characters go through. And you see that writing style improve and his craft improve, and it's fantastic. And one last thing that I think is also related to writing style, but just so key in a mystery book, is the plotting. I love the way that Richard Osman plots. So I'm not somebody who's actually a plot-driven reader in general. I'm much more somebody who cares about atmosphere and characters and themes, which Osman does fantastically. But I think that his plotting in this is just actually really engaging and immersive and keeps you wanting to turn the pages. And again, this is something that I've seen develop over the course of the four books, where in the first book it was a little bit twisty-turny for my taste, but then the further in we go, the more natural it feels, where the mystery is a mystery, and there's often many side plots and many side mysteries going on as well. But each kind of, as you progress through the book, you're learning more about what's going on, and you have more suspicions, or you're ruling characters out. You're gaining more knowledge, but at the same time, you don't really fully grasp what's going on until maybe a page or two before the characters do. And that is just the perfect way to go through a mystery for me, where you feel like you're part of it. You feel like you're guessing what's going on. You have suspicions, but it doesn't come together until right before the characters figure it out, and you're just so immersed in that mystery. I think that for me, I think that kind of plotting aspect of it reminds me of the way that you season food, where if you don't have enough seasoning, things are going to taste bland. It's not going to be that great for you. But if you add too much, it can just taste overwhelmingly salty, right? You feel all of the salt that's in there. And if it's done just right, you don't taste the salt, but the food is just fantastic. It has so much flavor. And that's what the plotting feels like in these, where the first book may be a little bit oversalted, but the rest of them, you don't feel that effort that goes into the plotting. You just are fully immersed in it, and it's so great. So yeah, I'm really impressed with how Richard Osman manages to keep these books so engaging, especially for somebody like me who's not a huge plot-driven reader. I think it's just really excellent craft. And then all of the characters and the humor and the themes and everything that goes into this, it just makes it so much fun to read. Overall, I think that the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman is just a fantastic mystery series, especially because it bridges that aspects of thriller as well as cozy mystery, and just has such heart to it and so much empathy. I think that this series is something that will appeal to people who like thrillers and like more serious mysteries, as well as people who like lighter things. And it'll be just such a fun experience and such a joy to read. So if you guys haven't tried this series, I really highly recommend giving it a shot. And if you have read it, I'd love to chat with you in the comments about your experiences. Or if you know other series that sound kind of similar to this that you'd like to recommend to me, I would love to hear those recommendations. Just leave me a comment down below.